This girl looks harmless, but she possesses an uncontrollable superpower. When she gets angry, she can pierce a massive hole in the moon. She lives in a family with 7 siblings, all of whom have unusual abilities. Many years ago, something strange happened on Earth. A large number of girls, without ever being pregnant, mysteriously gave birth. A billionaire named Rezinal, upon learning about this, offered a high price to adopt 7 of these children. He then brought them home and took care of them carefully. Rezinal named the 7 children with numbers from 1 to 7. He then personally trained them, aiming to create heroes who could change the world. During a bank robbery, the 7 children, now grown, appeared before everyone's eyes. Number 1 was born with incredible strength and defeated the robber in less than a single round. Number 2 could control the trajectory of a thrown knife, striking down enemies before they even had a chance to react. Number 3 had the ability to manipulate others with his voice, forcing enemies to turn on each other in a brutal frenzy. Number 5 could travel through time and space, appearing behind his enemies in the blink of an eye. Number 6 could summon monsters from another dimension through his own body, instantly crushing all enemies around him. Number 4 was quite different from the others. He could see and communicate with ghosts, but because he had been terrified of spirits since childhood, he was never taken seriously. To toughen him up, he was often locked in an underground tomb. As for number 7, she had no special abilities at all and was cast aside by the others. From that moment, the Umbrella Academy was founded to fight against crime. One day, while everyone was having a meal, number 5 suddenly expressed his desire to try time travel. However, Rezinal immediately refused. He warned number 5 that time travel was entirely different from space travel, far more dangerous and filled with unpredictable variables. But young and impulsive, number 5 ignored Rezinal's warning and used his ability in the middle of the street. He jumped forward to summer, then pushed further into winter. However, on his 3rd attempt, something went terribly wrong. He lost control and was flung far into the future, more than a decade ahead. The sight that greeted him was a world in ruins. Everywhere he looked, there was nothing but devastation. He was the only one left alive. At that moment, he realized he had caused something disastrous. Desperate to return, he tried again and again, but every attempt ended in failure. Trapped in that desolate timeline, he wandered alone through the wreckage, searching for a way back. Time passed quickly, and number 5 had been trapped in this desolate future for over a decade. To keep himself from falling into despair, he found a mannequin and made it his companion. One day, as he was chatting with the mannequin, a woman suddenly appeared. She introduced herself as a member of the Tempscom mission, an organization responsible for protecting the timeline, ensuring that no one could manipulate or alter it. She recognized number 5's exceptional ability to travel through time and invited him to join her organization. Seeing this as an opportunity to finally escape, number 5 agreed without hesitation. He became an assassin for Tempscom mission and spent the next 5 years living the life of a hired killer. His mission was to eliminate those who posed a threat to the natural flow of time. Meanwhile, in the original timeline, many years had passed and the Umbrella Academy had undergone drastic changes. Number 6 had died heroically during a mission, and the rest of the siblings had each gone their own way, pursuing different paths in life. Number 7 had become a violinist. Number 1 was sent to the moon by Rezinal to carry out a special mission. Number 2 became a vigilante, fighting crime across the city. Number 3 used her natural talents to rise to fame as a celebrity. As for number 4, his ability to see ghosts had tormented him for years. After growing up, he drowned himself in alcohol and drugs, until one day, the siblings all came across the news announcing the death of their adoptive father, Rezinal. The shocking announcement left them with no choice but to return home for the funeral. After many years apart, the siblings were finally reunited. As they discussed the suspicious circumstances surrounding Rezinal's death, the sky outside suddenly erupted with deafening thunder. A massive energy vortex appeared in the heavens, swirling ominously above them. Number 5, who had been missing for many years, had finally returned. Strangely, he still had the same youthful appearance as when he disappeared. Without hesitation, he revealed that the world would end in just 8 days. At the memorial service for their late adoptive father Rezinal, none of the siblings seemed grief-stricken. Instead, number 2 openly voiced his resentment, accusing Rezinal of never treating them as real people. He criticized the way they had been forced to train endlessly since childhood, living under constant discipline. Rezinal had never shown them any familial warmth, and he hadn't even bothered to give them proper names, referring to them simply by numbers from 1 to 7. Number 1 couldn't tolerate what he was hearing, and without hesitation, he and number 2 launched into a fierce fight. Watching the chaos unfold, number 5 simply turned away and left. He went to a restaurant in the city, eager to finally have a decent meal. For decades in the apocalypse, he could only drink water and eat insects to survive. As he waited for his food, a group of assassins suddenly stormed into the restaurant. However, before they could even react, number 5 struck first, eliminating them in an instant. He had returned to this timeline before completing his contract with Tempscom mission, making him a target for execution. Number 5 left the restaurant after dealing with the assassins. With nowhere else to go, he headed to number 7's house. Sitting across from her, he recounted everything he had seen about the apocalypse. He told her about the date he had spotted on a newspaper forever in the ruins of the future. After calculating the timeline, he realized that doomsday was exactly 8 days away. However, number 7 refused to believe him. She thinks he's paranoid after time travel. Meanwhile, number 5 carefully examined the clues in his possession, determined to uncover the cause of the impending apocalypse. At that time, number 5 had discovered the bodies of his fallen siblings, buried beneath the ruins. Clutched tightly in number 1's hand was a synthetic eye, a clear indication that it was somehow connected to the cause of the apocalypse. Determined to prevent the catastrophe, number 5 decided to investigate the origin of the artificial eye. However, his actions had already put him in the crosshairs of the Tempscom mission. The organization saw him as a threat to the future and an anomaly that had disrupted the natural flow of time. 2 assassins from Tempscom mission were dispatched with orders to eliminate him, and they had now arrived in his timeline. Following the address engraved on the artificial eye, number 5 tracked down the company that manufactured prosthetic body parts. He positioned himself outside, patiently waiting for the right moment to slip inside and uncover the truth. Meanwhile, the 2 assassins, tasked with eliminating number 5, arrived at his house just as number 2 happened to pass by. Unaware of the situation, number 2 instinctively threw his knives to attack. However, the assassins proved to be formidable opponents, countering with astonishing speed and strength. Realizing that their enemies were far from ordinary, number 1 and number 3, upon hearing the commotion, rushed in to join the battle. Now outnumbered, the 2 assassins quickly found themselves at a disadvantage. Unable to keep up with the combined force of the Umbrella Academy members, they were forced to retreat. Number 1's coat got caught on a chandelier, tearing and exposing his upper body. In that moment, a long-hidden secret was revealed. It turned out that after everyone had left the Umbrella Academy, number 1 had remained behind, continuing to carry out Rezinal's missions. During one of his missions, number 1 was gravely injured and nearly lost his life. To save him, Rezinal injected him with the blood of Ting Ting. Although he survived, his body underwent a strange mutation. He began developing characteristics similar to Ting Ting, something that became a deep psychological burden he could never overcome. Meanwhile, after failing their mission, the 2 assassins had no choice but to kidnap number 4, the only one without any combat abilities. They forced him into captivity and interrogated him about number 5's whereabouts. However, number 4 had spent years drowning himself in alcohol and drugs, numbing himself to pain and reality. When he was tortured, he not only felt no pain, but even found it strangely exhilarating. In the end, unable to resist the temptation of the drugs, he revealed the places number 5 frequently visited. Unaware of what had happened, number 5 was busy interrogating the staff at the prosthetic manufacturing company, trying to obtain a list of their clients. Meanwhile, upon learning of his investigation, the 2 assassins headed straight to the laboratory where the artificial eyes were produced. Without hesitation, they set fire to the entire facility, burning it to the ground. By the time number 5 arrived, it was too late. The only clue he had was now completely destroyed. In another development, at the hotel where number 4 was being held captive, a female police officer happened to be patrolling nearby. The sound of number 4 banging his head against the table caught her attention. Sensing something was wrong, she retrieved a keycard from the hotel staff, unlocked the door, and found number 4 tied up inside the room. Number 4 glanced toward the bathroom, signaling with his eyes that someone was hiding there. The officer immediately understood and quickly untied him. Just as she freed him, one of the assassins emerged. Without hesitation, she pulled the trigger. Amid the chaos, number 4 quickly grabbed his clothes and escaped through the ventilation shaft. At that moment, another assassin appeared from behind, and the female police officer was killed on the spot. At that moment, the 2 assassins realized that number 4 had escaped. To make matters worse, he had taken a briefcase they had hidden inside the ventilation shaft. By then, number 4 was already seated on a bus, curiously inspecting the stolen briefcase. In his mind, he imagined it filled with money and diamonds. However, the moment he flipped it open, everything changed in an instant. Without warning, he was transported through time and found himself on a battlefield in 1968. Before he could even process what had happened, enemy forces launched a sudden attack. Mistaken for a soldier, he was dragged into the chaos and, without understanding how, found himself living the life of a soldier in the middle of a war. Meanwhile, after the assassins had broken into their home, number 1 and number 2 realized that the true target was number 5. Without hesitation, they set out to track him down. They searched everywhere, determined to find him before it was too late. Eventually, they discovered number 5, completely drunk, lost in a haze of alcohol. Number 5 was grieving over the lost lead. After sobering up, under number 1's interrogation, he finally revealed everything, including the fact that there were only 4 days left until the apocalypse. At the same time, on a bus somewhere in the city, number 4 had time-traveled back from the battlefield. Enraged, he smashed the briefcase in his hands. After returning home, number 5 urgently questioned him about the whereabouts of the briefcase. The Tempscom mission documents could have helped him return to the past, giving him more time to prevent the apocalypse. But the only answer he received was that the briefcase had been destroyed. From everything number 4 had experienced, number 5 suddenly realized something. After making his calculations, number 5 identified the person who needed to be eliminated to prevent the apocalypse. That person was named Milton. Milton. As long as Milton was killed, the apocalypse could be stopped. However, number 1 immediately intervened, preventing him from taking action. He refused to approve the killing of an innocent person, arguing that the apocalypse was not yet certain to happen. In the end, after discussing their options, number 1 and number 5 came up with a new plan. They decided to use the briefcase as bait to lure the 2 assassins from Tempscom mission into a meeting. If they could infiltrate the organization, number 5 would have the opportunity to investigate and identify the true cause of the apocalypse. This way, they could resolve the problem at its root without harming innocent people. But number 1 and number 5 never expected that number 2 and number 4, unaware of the plan, would also show up. Without hesitation, they drove straight into the 2 assassins. Just then, time and space suddenly froze. A woman appeared out of nowhere. She was the handler, the head of Tempscom mission. She told number 5 that everything he was doing was pointless, that in the end, the apocalypse would still happen. However, she offered him a deal. If he agreed to return and work for her, she would ensure that his siblings survived when the world ended. Number 5 agreed to the handler's terms, but only on one condition. Before leaving, he subtly altered the trajectory of a bullet that had been aimed at number 1, saving him from being shot. Then, he followed the handler, and time resumed its normal flow. The handler brought number 5 back to Tempscom mission and assigned him to investigate anomalies in the timeline. Using this opportunity, he secretly gathered information about the organization's inner workings. Eventually, he uncovered the mastermind responsible for the apocalypse. With this knowledge, he issued a fake order, tricking the 2 assassins into turning on each other, leading them to kill one another. Just at that moment, the handler suddenly appeared and uncovered number 5's scheme. Realizing that his cover had been blown, number 5 rushed to the room where the briefcases were stored. Without hesitation, he detonated all the remaining briefcases, preventing the organization from continuing their pursuit. In the final seconds, he grabbed one intact briefcase and used it to time travel back home. This time, he didn't return empty-handed. He brought with him the crucial clue to the apocalypse. The person responsible for the end of the world had a name: Hera. Look at the girl called number 7 as she undergoes training with her adoptive father. With her eyes closed, she simply focuses her mind, and in the very next second, an immense surge of power erupts from within her. The force is so overwhelming that Rezinal's glasses shatter instantly. Witnessing this uncontrollable and destructive power, Rezinal makes a decision. He must put a stop to number 7's training. But in the days that follow, every time she hears a loud noise, her emotions burst forth, and she is unable to control the power within her. After going through numerous housekeepers without success, Rezinal had no choice but to lock number 7 in a sealed room. He ordered her to take medication daily to suppress her emotions. At the same time, he instructed number 3 to use her ability to make number 7 forget that she ever had superpowers. Over time, number 7 gradually lost all memory of her past and lived as an ordinary person. As she grew older, she became a violinist. Her life remained peaceful until one day, a man named Hera appeared, shattering the normalcy she had known. Every time she felt troubled, Hera would show up at just the right moment. For someone like number 7, who had never experienced warmth from others, it didn't take long for her to fall for him. Number 7 and Hera officially became a couple, but she had no idea that everything was part of Hera's plan. Hera had lost his mother at a young age and had suffered constant abuse from his father. He had once dreamed of becoming a hero like the children of the Umbrella Academy. One day, he packed his belongings and stood at the doorstep of the academy, hoping to be accepted. But instead of welcoming him, Rezinal mocked him and sent him away. When Hera returned home, he was met with more beatings from his father. The emotions that had been suppressed within Hera for years suddenly erupted. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a hammer and struck his drunken father straight on the head. After several blows, his father lay dead on the spot. Hera was sentenced to 12 years in prison. By the time he was released, Rezinal had already passed away. Still harboring deep resentment, Hera set his sights on revenge against the Umbrella Academy. If he had not been rejected that day, he believed he would never have ended up on this path. While planning his revenge, Hera accidentally came across Rezinal's notebook. After reading it from cover to cover, he gained a deep understanding of all 7 members of the Umbrella Academy. With his targets now clear, he set his sights on number 7. Hera carefully approached her, slowly drawing her in. Before long, she became completely infatuated with him, falling deeply in love. During this time, through her own investigations, number 3 discovered that something was off about Hera. She warned number 7 to stay away from him, but blinded by love, number 7 refused to listen. She believed that number 3, as a single mother raising a child alone, was simply jealous of her happiness and envious that she had found such a perfect love. In the end, every time the 2 sisters met, they ended up arguing. But things didn't stop there. Whenever he had the chance, Hera encouraged number 7 to explore her hidden abilities. One day, number 7 and Hera encountered a group of unruly thugs who immediately started attacking Hera. Number 7 cried out, begging them to stop, but they ignored her completely. Overcome with rage and desperation, she let out a scream. In an instant, the sheer force of her voice sent the thugs flying several meters away. Her power was undeniable. This was exactly why Rezinal had suppressed her abilities for so long. Hera was immediately rushed to the hospital for treatment. The The injuries he sustained in the fight left him blind in one eye. It seems we have now found the owner of the artificial eye that number 5 brought back from the apocalypse. After discovering her powers, number 7 was overwhelmed with fear. She hurried home, seeking comfort and protection from her family. Her eldest brother opened his arms wide and pulled her into a warm embrace. For a brief moment, she felt the warmth of familial love, something she had long yearned for. But almost immediately, she sensed that something was wrong. Struggling for breath, she told number 1 that he was suffocating her. He could only apologize, insisting that he was doing this for her own good. Before she could resist, his grip tightened until she lost consciousness. When she finally woke up, she found herself locked inside a dark room. The reason was simple: she was too dangerous and had to be isolated. Outside the door, number 3 and number 4, unable to bear seeing her imprisoned, tried to persuade number 1 to release her. But he was firm in his decision. Once he had made up his mind, there was no turning back. Locked in the dark room, number 7 felt an overwhelming sense of despair. She had been confined as a child, and now, once again, she was imprisoned. The hopelessness was unbearable, and soon, she began to hallucinate. Number 7 saw herself when she was young. The younger version of number 7 desperately tried to convince her. Our siblings are just like our father. They have always wanted to control us. We've been cast aside, separated from everyone, never allowed to live in the light, never truly cared for. This will never end if we continue to stay silent and accept it. Under the influence of this hallucination, number 7 completely lost control. She no longer wanted to suppress herself or endure a life without love. As she thought about it, she realized she had a power greater than anyone. Why should she be the one locked away? With a thunderous crash, the steel door shattered and collapsed. Number 7 had gone crazy. The entire academy trembled violently as her power surged out of control. Seeing the situation deteriorate, number 1 immediately led everyone away. After awakening, number 7 had completely lost her humanity. Wherever she went, destruction and ruin followed. Her heart was filled with nothing but resentment. All she wanted was to bury everyone. The butler, Ting Ting, hurriedly tried to stop her. At first, number 7 still held some kindness toward him, but upon learning that Ting Ting had once schemed to suppress her powers, her fury erupted. Without hesitation, she pinned the butler against the wall. After killing the butler, Ting Ting, number 7 became completely unstoppable. Her abilities were now fully mastered, and with just a thought, she reduced the entire academy to ruins. Even the robotic mother was buried beneath the destruction. Luckily, number 1 had managed to get everyone else to safety just in time. It was in that moment that number 5 finally realized the truth. Hera was not the one who caused the apocalypse. That useless puppet had merely been pulling the strings. The true cause of the world's end was none other than number 7. After awakening her powers, number 7 had lost all traces of humanity. The only thought left in her mind was to attend her violin performance. Determined to stop her, number 1 decided to confront her directly at the concert. The siblings rushed to the venue, ready to intervene. Number 3, hoping to resolve the situation peacefully, insisted on speaking to their sister first. She asked number 1 and the others to wait outside, believing she could reach number 7 with reason and kindness. At first, the two sisters exchanged glances, and the conversation seemed to be going well. But before anything could be settled, number 1 and number 5 suddenly stormed onto the stage. Enraged by their interference, number 7 stood up and dragged her bow across the strings, unleashing a force that sent both of them flying across the room. Now, things had truly spiraled out of control. Furious, she played with even greater intensity, her music growing more violent. The audience ran away in fear, but she refused to stop. Just at that moment, another serious problem arose as the assassins from Tempscom mission finally caught up. At the critical moment, number 4 used his ability to summon the spirit of number 6. Without hesitation, number 6 unleashed his power, using his tentacles to strike down every assassin in sight. One by one, then soon, the threat was eliminated. Now only one danger remained, and that was number 7. Seeing that all the siblings were finally gathered together, number 1 gave the order. This was their chance to work together and subdue her. Before they could act, number 7 had already taken control. In an instant, she seized them all with her overwhelming power, leaving them unable to move. However, number 3 had anticipated this moment and had hidden herself, waiting for the right time to strike from behind. Number 3 silently raised her gun and positioned herself behind number 7. Out of deep sisterly affection, she slightly adjusted the aim of the barrel. The moment she pulled the trigger, number 7 instantly lost control. Though she released her grip on her siblings, the immense energy within her surged upward, piercing through 9 layers of clouds and shooting straight toward the moon. The siblings rushed to check on her condition. Fortunately, number 7 was still alive. Relief washed over them as they realized they had succeeded. The apocalypse had been prevented. But then, something terrifying happened. A massive meteor was hurtling toward Earth. There was no way to stop it now. The planet was doomed. So this was the true apocalypse all along. No wonder the handler had once said, "What is meant to happen will happen." The enormous meteor crashed down, triggering a catastrophic explosion. In an instant, Earth was reduced to a living hell. At the critical moment, number 5 activated his ability, pulling his siblings with him as they vanished into the time stream. No one knew if this jump would give them another chance to prevent the apocalypse. One thing was certain, this family was stronger than anyone could have imagined. Number 1, with his towering strength, leaped into the air and blocked a missile with his body without suffering a single scratch. Number 7, caught an artillery shell with her bare hands. Number 4, summoned an army of fallen soldiers, their spirits lunging at the enemy, tearing them apart the moment they appeared. Number 6 was even more terrifying. Though he existed only as a spirit, it did nothing to hinder his ability to kill. Number 3 needed only to utter a few words, and her enemies' heads exploded instantly. Number 2 moved with such agility that no bullet could touch him, no matter how precise the shots. The 7 siblings had just time traveled, and already they were thrown into a brutal battlefield. As number 5 prepared to step in and help, someone suddenly grabbed him from behind. That person was Hazer. Hazer was the assassin who had once been sent to kill number 5. There was no time for explanations. He simply pointed toward the distance. A barrage of artillery fire was hurtling toward them. In the very next second, a nuclear explosion erupted. The world had once again fallen into an apocalypse. Luckily, Hazer acted just in time, pulling number 5 away and saving him from certain death. Using a briefcase, Hazer transported them 10 days before the apocalypse. Number 5 stood there, completely bewildered. As it turned out, before number 7 had caused the end of the world, Hazer had used time travel to escape with his wife. For 20 years, he and his wife had lived peacefully in this new timeline. But that very act of time travel had created an unintended consequence. The war between Russia and America, which had never been part of history, had been set into motion. The apocalypse had arrived 60 years earlier than it was supposed to. And now, once again, the responsibility of preventing it fell upon number 5. The 7 siblings had time traveled together, but they each arrived in different timelines. Number 4, along with number 6, was the first to arrive in 1960. 1 year later, at the same location, number 3 appeared. In 1962, number 1 crashed straight into a garbage bin. Looking around at the unfamiliar surroundings, he began to grow anxious. A year after that, number 2 arrived in the same place. The moment he set foot on the ground, he heard someone crying for help. Being a fearless and righteous fighter, he immediately chased after the thief. At that exact moment, he saw President Kennedy giving a speech on TV. Without thinking, he shouted frantically that someone was planning to assassinate the president. Naturally, his outburst caused a commotion, and he was quickly dismissed as insane. Labeled a mental patient, he was locked away. That same year, number 7 also arrived. Perhaps due to the overwhelming use of her powers in the past, she had completely lost her memory. She no longer remembered who she was. She was taken in by a family. Not long after, number 5 appeared as well. But the moment he arrived, he was confronted with yet another apocalypse. Fortunately, Hazer pulled him away just in time and took him through time once again. Hazer told number 5 that the apocalypse would arrive in 10 days. Number 5 was skeptical. At that very moment, the assassins of the Temscom mission caught up to them. Hazer, having betrayed the organization by siding with number 5, was immediately targeted. The assassins showed no mercy and shot him dead on the spot. Now, number 5 was completely alone, with no idea how to save the world. With no better plan, he decided to start by finding his siblings. But in this timeline, they had already built new lives for themselves. Number 1 had used his strength to join illegal underground boxing. Every day he fought brutal matches, collecting prize money only to spend it at bars afterward. Number 5 followed him to one of these bars, trying to convince him to help prevent the apocalypse. But number 1 had no interest in getting involved. The only reason he had ever wanted to stop the end of the world was so he could be with number 3. It turned out that number 1 had secretly loved number 3 for a long time. However, in this timeline, she had married someone else and was living a happy life. For a moment, number 1 lost all motivation to stop the apocalypse. Number 5 tried everything to convince him, but no matter how hard he pleaded, number 1 refused to change his mind. Just then, as he reached into his pocket, number 5 felt something unexpected, a cassette tape. It was the very thing that Hazer had slipped into his pocket before dying. Meanwhile, number 2 and his friend had escaped from the mental hospital. Wasting no time, number 5 went to find him to discuss how they could prevent the apocalypse. But after taking psychiatric medication for so long, number 2's mind had become dull and unfocused. At the same time, number 2 and his friend managed to escape from the mental hospital. Number 5 immediately tracked him down, hoping to discuss a plan to prevent the apocalypse. However, after taking psychiatric medication for so long, number 2's mind had become dull and unfocused. All he wanted now was to enjoy his newfound freedom and have fun. Thankfully, number 5 was quick-witted. He threatened number 2, saying that if he refused to help save the world, he would report him to the mental hospital and have him sent back. Reluctantly, number 2 agreed. Together, they carefully examined the cassette tape Hazer had left behind, hoping to uncover the mastermind behind the Russia-America war. But as they listened, number 5's sharp eyes caught sight of someone completely unexpected. Meanwhile, number 1 had gone to a bar for entertainment when by chance he spotted number 7. Instead of approaching her immediately, he held back. The next day, number 7 took a gun and went to the farm of the person who adopted number 7. The moment they met, number 1 apologized to number 7. However, behind his back, he was already preparing to pull the trigger. At first, number 7 felt a sense of relief. She had been suffering from memory loss for months, desperately searching for answers. She had put up flyers, posted newspaper ads, but no one had come forward to to claim her. Now, at last, someone who knew her had appeared. She eagerly asked number 1 about her identity, but his reaction was tense. To him, it seemed like she was only pretending to have lost her memory, trying to deceive him. Even though number 7 insisted that she truly remembered nothing, number 1 couldn't bring himself to believe her. Just as he was about to draw his gun, the farm owner appeared just in time. The farm owner sensed danger and immediately raised her shotgun, forcing number 1 to leave. Number 7 remained bewildered, unable to understand what she had done to make someone come after her with a gun. Meanwhile, number 5 and number 2 were searching for any trace of Resinol. They combed through international address records, but the search led nowhere. There were simply too many people with the same name, making it impossible to determine which one was the adoptive father of the 7 siblings. Thinking quickly, number 5 came up with another approach. Instead of searching for Resinol directly, they would look for the address of Umbrella Corporation, the company that eventually became the Umbrella Academy. Sure enough, their strategy worked. Before long, number 5 and number 2 successfully identified a company linked to their past. When they arrived, they found the company completely abandoned. Not a single person was in sight, and the desks were covered in a thick layer of dust. It was clear that this place had been deserted for a long time. But as number 5 searched the room, he noticed something unusual. Among the forgotten papers and scattered debris, there was a brand new invitation card sitting on the desk. He picked it up and slipped it into his pocket, sensing that it might be important. Right at that moment, a sudden noise came from nearby. He approached to investigate and discovered a younger version of the butler, Ting Ting. This was Ting Ting in his wild state. Without hesitation, Ting Ting raised a hand and slapped number 5 across the face before bolting toward the window and escaping through it. Number 2 had been following the figure closely when, out of nowhere, he was ambushed from behind. Despite his abilities, he found himself evenly matched against the person in black. Just as number 2 was about to land a decisive strike, he finally caught a glimpse of his opponent's face. It was none other than Resinol, the adoptive father of the 7 siblings. Seizing the moment of hesitation, Resinol struck, delivering a critical stab to number 2. Number 2 collapsed to the ground, clutching his wound. Resinol casually took young Ting Ting by the hand and walked away as if nothing had happened. Luckily, this stab was not enough to take number 2's life. Elsewhere, number 7 seemed to recall something. In the dead of night, she drove away from the farm, but on the road, she unexpectedly encountered assassins from Tempscom mission. These 3 killers intended to eliminate her before her superpowers could awaken. Sensing the danger, number 7 bolted into a cornfield. Thanks to her agility, she managed to dodge countless bullets, but in the end, number 7 was still cornered by the assassins. Just as a bullet was about to pierce her head, the dormant power within her suddenly awakened. In an instant, all 3 assassins lost consciousness. Seizing the opportunity, number 7 quickly fled. Fortunately, number 5 had detected the ultrasonic waves emitted from her power. He rushed to the scene just in time and pulled number 7 out of the cornfield. By then, the sky had already brightened. Looking around, number 7 finally realized that in a moment of anger, she had flattened a massive section of the field. Now that number 5 had found her, the only sibling still unaccounted for was number 3. At that moment, number 3 and her husband were deeply involved in the civil rights movement. In 1960, racial discrimination against black people was widespread, with many restaurants displaying signs that banned them from entering. As a black woman, number 3 led a group of protesters in a sit-in at one of these establishments, demanding to be served like white customers. Unfortunately, instead of achieving their goal, the demonstration only intensified the conflict. The conflict escalated, growing more intense by the minute. Eventually, the police intervened, using force to remove the black protesters from the restaurant. In the chaos, they arrested number 3's husband. Watching her husband being beaten, number 3 could no longer hold back. She used her power. With a single command, she hypnotized the officers, making them obey her will and walk away. Her husband, still in shock from what had just happened, could not understand why the police had suddenly let him go. Number 3's husband asked what she had said to the police. She simply replied that she had told them to let him go, but he knew better. There was no way white officers would release a black man just because a black woman asked. The trust he once had in her wavered. In his eyes, the woman standing before him was no longer the same. Something about her was undeniably wrong. While number 3 was still arguing with her husband, number 4 received the news and rushed to the scene. Without hesitation, he pulled her away from the chaos, getting her to safety before things escalated further. Elsewhere, number 1 stood in the center of a dimly lit boxing ring, his muscular frame taking blow after blow. His opponent struck him relentlessly, yet he made no effort to fight back. The club owner, watching from the sidelines, grew impatient, signaling desperately for number 1 to retaliate, but he remained motionless, as if in a trance, refusing to raise a fist. Each time he was knocked down, he simply got back up, only to be hit again. Just moments earlier, he had learned the truth. Number 3 had married someone else. The weight of that reality crushed him. He had no desire to fight anymore. The physical pain was the only thing that could dull the ache inside him. Defeated and humiliated, he left the ring. The furious club owner, having lost a fortune on the match, kicked him out immediately. Without a home, without a purpose, number 1 had nowhere left to go. With no other choice, he made his way to find number 5, hoping for a place to stay. At this moment, number 5 and number 2 were investigating Rezinol through an invitation card that number 5 had stolen. The sender of the invitation was a powerful figure named Hoy Hillen Cotter. Hoy Hillen Cotter came from an underground force created by scientists and the military, known as the 12 Elders. Later, a friend of number 5 found a photo of the 12 Elders, but there were only 11 people in the picture. Number 5 suspected that Rezinol was the 12th member. To verify this theory, number 5 decided to infiltrate the party by sending number 2 and his lover, Lila, as undercover guests. However, Rezinol quickly realized that number 5 was tracking him. Fortunately, number 5 moved fast enough to avoid capture. But just as he turned around, he found himself face to face with an assassin from Tempscom mission, standing right behind him. With no other choice, number 5 activated his powers and teleported away. But repeated use of his ability was taking a toll on him. His body was reaching its limit. Meanwhile, number 2 had finally caught up, rushing in to help. Yet before he could even reach number 5, he was ambushed from behind by one of the assassin's allies. Moreover, it was a 2-against-1 fight. Number 5, completely exhausted, had no strength left to fight back and could only endure the attacks. At that moment, Lila, number 2's lover, arrived at the scene. She saw both number 2 and number 5 being beaten mercilessly by the assassins. A voice echoed in her mind, "Protect number 5 at all costs." Without hesitation, she threw herself into the fight, rushing toward number 5 and taking on the assassins head-on. Seizing the opportunity, number 5 managed to grab one of the assassins and hurl him out the window. Just then, he caught sight of Rezinol preparing to leave the party. Number 5 immediately rushed after Rezinol. With number 5 successfully retreating, number 2 finally had the chance to reveal his true strength. Now that it was a one-on-one fight, the assassin stood no chance against him. Within moments, number 2 took him down effortlessly. Once he was done, he hurried outside, but by the time he and number 5 made it to the street, all they could see was the taillights of Rezinol's car disappearing into the distance. Lila urged them to get in the car and chase after him, but before they could, number 2 turned to her with suspicion. He was her boyfriend, so why had she only cared about saving number 5 earlier? Lila simply explained that number 5 was still just a kid, while number 2 was already a grown man. She told him to start acting like one. Number 2 knew she was just giving him a convenient excuse, but he couldn't argue with her. Without any leads on Rezinol, he and number 5 returned home, disappointed. Number 1 had been waiting for them for a long time. When he heard that they had been searching for Rezinol, a memory suddenly surfaced in his mind. He finally remembered something from the day he had first arrived in this timeline. Number 1 had lost track of his siblings, so he relied on his memories to overcome countless obstacles and eventually find his adoptive father, Rezinol. But at this point in time, Rezinol had not yet adopted them. Believing that, no matter what, he was still Rezinol's son, number 1 was confident that he would be accepted. Reality, however, hit him like a bucket of cold water. Not only did Rezinol refuse to acknowledge him, but he also mocked him, laughing and comparing his massive frame to that of a gorilla. Crushed by rejection and without a place to belong, number 1 fell into despair. That was when he turned to illegal boxing, using it as a way to survive each day. At the same time, Lila's true nature was finally revealed. She was no ordinary person. She was in fact the adopted daughter of Handler. Raised from childhood to be a top assassin, Lila had been carefully trained under Handler's watchful eye, and her mission was to protect number 5 at all costs. Shortly after, the 3 assassin siblings received their next mission from Tempscom mission. This time, their target was number 2. Following the clues, they tracked him to a dense forest. Near one of the trees, they spotted a knife embedded in the bark, one that clearly belonged to number 2. One of the assassins cautiously stepped forward, but in his carelessness, he triggered a hidden bomb. In an instant, he was blown to pieces, leaving no trace behind. At the same time, number 5 had begun to suspect Lila's mysterious behavior. Sensing something was off, he decided to follow her. His suspicions proved correct. He soon discovered that the Handler was there as well. Under normal circumstances, Handler would have been the one most eager to eliminate number 5, but this time she wanted to work with him again. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a black woman took her husband to a high-end store that only served white customers. As soon as they entered, the staff immediately asked them to leave. Instead of complying, number 3 scanned the room, taking in the surroundings. Then, with a single command, she hypnotized the store clerk. Immediately, the store clerk obediently and warmly poured coffee for number 3. He even helped her husband try on a full selection of suits. By the time they left, both of them carried bags filled with expensive clothing, yet they hadn't spent a single cent. Encouraged by the success, number 3 used the same method to purchase an expensive outfit for herself. Feeling elated, she and her husband decided to return to the same restaurant where they had staged their protest the day before. The staff's attitude remained as hostile as ever, but this time, number 3 had no intention of letting it slide. Leaning in slightly, she whispered, "I'll have a black coffee." Without hesitation, the waiter obeyed, turning to pour her a fresh cup. But number 3 wasn't satisfied. She kept giving the same order, over and over again, forcing the waiter to continue pouring. Eventually, the steaming hot coffee overflowed, scalding his hands. At this moment, the husband had to step in to stop number 3. This time, number 3's husband had his eyes eyes opened, he now truly believed that his wife had superpowers. Previously, he had always suspected that she had an ambiguous relationship with the white police officer. With no other choice, number 3 admitted that she was from the future and possessed superpowers. However, her husband still didn't believe her, so she had no choice but to demonstrate her abilities. After returning home, number 3's husband was clearly very excited. He urged her to use her superpowers to help black people fight for their rights. But number 3 hesitated that advocating for rights was a long process. She truly did not want to interfere with history using her powers. If something went wrong and affected the future, she could become a sinner for eternity. As the couple argued over the matter, number 3 suddenly noticed a letter at her feet. Picking it up and unfolding it, she was shocked to find that it was an invitation from Resinol. Lately, Resinol had become aware of the strange individuals either tracking or ambushing him. Frustrated, he had decided to arrange a meeting to confront them directly. At the same time, the other siblings also received the same invitation. On the day of the event, they arrived one by one. After years of separation, the entire family was finally sitting together again. Resinol, however, remained completely in the dark about what was happening. Confused and irritated, he demanded to know why these 7 people kept following him. Without hesitation, number 5 spoke up. "We are your children," he said bluntly. "We came from the future. In 1989, you adopted and trained us to stop the apocalypse and founded the Umbrella Academy." Resinol remained bewildered, completely unable to understand why he would ever adopt such a group of strange children. At that moment, number 5 spoke up again. "Because we have superpowers." With that, he began introducing each of them. Number 1 has superhuman strength. Number 4 can communicate with the dead. Number 3 can control people and make them do anything she wants. To make his explanation more entertaining, number 3 decided to give a live demonstration. With just a few words, she commanded number 2 to punch himself in the face. When it came time to introduce number 7, everyone hesitated, fearful that she might destroy the entire building. However, this time, she had full control over her powers and reassured them that everything was under control. As proof, the only thing she ended up destroying was a plate of fruit. After confirming their abilities, number 2 pulled out a photograph showing Resinol at a presidential speech. Without hesitation, he directly questioned whether Resinol was involved in the president's assassination. Unexpectedly, this question completely enraged Resinol. As the tension in the room escalated, number 5 quickly steered everyone back to the main issue. "In just 5 days, we will have to face a cataclysmic battle," he warned. However, when the topic of the apocalypse was brought up, Resinol refused to believe it. Sitting nearby, the spirit of number 6 could no longer hold back. He wanted to possess number 4 to voice his opinion, but before he could even speak, number 4 suddenly fainted. Resinol had lost all patience. He stood up, ready to leave, but at that moment, number 1 took off his shirt, demanding an explanation for what Resinol had done to his body. Even this act failed to concern Resinol. Instead, he simply agreed to have a private conversation with number 5. The family meeting ended just like that, and the siblings left the elevator in frustration, while number 5 stayed behind for a serious conversation with Resinol. Number 5 recounted the entire story, explaining his desire to prevent the apocalypse, but admitting he had no idea where to start. Resinol, always sharp-minded, gave him a simple but profound piece of advice. Start small, don't be greedy, and try to do something too big all at once. That single sentence was like a revelation. If number 5 couldn't prevent the apocalypse from happening, then he needed to think differently. Gripping an axe tightly, number 5 stormed into the meeting room without a word. In an instant, he began slaughtering his enemies. Moving like a ghost, he appeared and disappeared in an instant, giving his enemies no chance to fight back. His ability to teleport, combined with the deadly precision of his blood-soaked axe, created a truly terrifying spectacle. No one managed to escape. After a series of swift and calculated strikes, all the high-ranking leaders of Tempscom mission lay dead. Only Chemical, the goldfish-headed figure trembling in fear, remained. He was the true leader of the Tempscom mission. Chemical attempted to bribe number 5, offering him a deal, but number 5 ignored his words entirely. Without hesitation, he swung his baton straight at Chemical's head, striking him down. Afterward, he handed the now bodiless goldfish over to the handler. Earlier, in order to save his siblings from the apocalypse, number 5 had agreed to collaborate with Handler. His task had been to eliminate the top leadership of Tempscom mission. In return, once the Handler took over the organization, she would send all 7 siblings back to their original timeline and erase the apocalypse from existence. To number 5, the deal was worth it, so he accepted. But the moment Handler got what she wanted, she immediately turned against him. Handler handed number 5 a single briefcase for time travel. With it, he could send anyone to any timeline, but there was one major restriction. The window was limited to just 90 minutes. Number 5 stood there, dumbfounded. Was she joking? She had never mentioned any time limit before. In reality, he now had only 89 minutes and 30 seconds left. Handler smirked and urged him to hurry up. This was impossible. His siblings were scattered all over the city. But according to the Handler, anything was possible. Realizing he had no time to argue, number 5 immediately sprang into action. He quickly devised a plan. Number 1 would find number 3, number 2 would locate number 4, and the spirit of number 6, while he himself would rush to inform number 7. Once they had all all been gathered, the meeting point would be the same alley where they had first arrived in this timeline. At the same time, Handler successfully took control of Tempscom mission and appointed her daughter, Lila, as the new head of security. Tasked with assembling a security team, Lila carefully considered her options. After much deliberation, her thoughts kept returning to her ex-boyfriend, Number 2. Meanwhile, Number 2 had successfully located Number 4. He quickly realized that Number 6 was possessing Number 4's body, indulging in life's pleasures. Wasting no time, Number 2 instructed Number 6 to meet at the designated alley in 1 hour. Without hesitation, Number 6 agreed. With his mission complete, Number 2 intended to take care of some personal matters. However, he was caught off guard when Leela secretly spiked his drink with a strange substance. The drug took effect almost instantly, and he lost consciousness. Without resistance, he was taken to Tempscom mission. Elsewhere, Number 5 had finally found Number 7, but Number 7 had fallen in love with the farm owner. No matter what, she insisted on bringing her girlfriend along. Reluctantly, Number 5 agreed to her request, given the limited time. However, the farm owner's husband had long suspected his wife's affair with Number 7. Fueled by jealousy and anger, he reported them to the police, who set up a roadblock to stop their escape. Number 7 instinctively prepared to use her powers to push back the officers, but just as she turned her head, she caught sight of the terrified look in her lover's eyes. At that moment, she hesitated. In the end, Number 7 decided not to fight, and the police quickly overpowered him. Meanwhile, Number 3's situation was even worse. The assassins from Tempscom mission had tracked her down, determined to exact their revenge. The moment the door opened, one of them struck her throat with brutal precision, cutting off her ability to speak. She and her husband were immediately overpowered, beaten mercilessly by the assassins. It wasn't until Number 3 managed to regain her strength that she could fight back. With a single whispered command, she forced one of the assassins to strangle his younger brother to death. When the assassin regained his senses, he was horrified and fled the scene in panic. Looking at the clock on the wall, Number 3 realized she had missed the agreed-upon time. In the alley, Number 5 and Number 1 waited anxiously, but only Number 4 and the spirit of Number 6 arrived. The others were nowhere to be seen. As the seconds ticked away, Number 5's frustration grew unbearable. Only 1 minute left. His patience snapped. How hard could this be? He seethed. All they had to do was get here. No giant monsters to fight, no mutant army to defeat. Just show up, and yet they had failed. The one chance to save the world, the opportunity that had cost him an entire massacre of Tempscom mission's leadership, was wasted, just like that. Meanwhile, Number 7 sat bound to an electric chair, her feet submerged in a basin of water. Electrodes clamped to her forehead, wrists, and ankles. A single switch controlled the voltage, and with just a small turn, unbearable pain would flood through her body. The doctor standing beside her carefully dripped a hallucinogenic drug into her eyes. Instantly, reality twisted and blurred. Her limbs were too weak to resist, her body drained of all strength. Through the haze, she saw something familiar. The Umbrella Academy, her siblings and Resinol, all seated at the dinner table, waiting for her to join them. As soon as Number 7 arrived, Resinol had the food brought out, speaking with a mocking tone. He taunted her, saying that not only had she forgotten her past, but she had forgotten herself as well. Under his relentless prodding, Number 7 eventually took a bite of the dessert placed before her, a dish made from human brain matter. The moment she tasted it, her memories flooded back. As the past came rushing in, her powers spiraled out of control. The interrogators torturing her were drained dry, their bodies reduced to lifeless husks. Previously, Number 7 had planned to escape with the farm owner, but instead, she had been captured, accused of being a Soviet spy, and charged with the assassination of the president. After enduring endless rounds of brutal interrogation and torture, her mind finally shattered, and at that moment, she remembered that the world was once again on the verge of destruction. Meanwhile, at Tempscom mission, Number 2 discovered a machine capable of predicting the future. Constantly worried about the president's assassination, he used the machine to look into the events of that day. Strangely, there was no sniper lying in wait. Instead, a massive explosion occurred in a building along the president's motorcade route. That building was none other than the FBI headquarters, the very place where Number 7 was being held. She had been framed as a Soviet spy, and in her moment of desperation, her unchecked power had triggered a catastrophic explosion. The explosion triggered a full-scale war between the United States and the Soviet Union, a conflict that was never meant to exist. This chain of events led directly to the apocalypse. Determined to prevent Number 7 from losing control again, Number 2 sneaked out of Tempscom mission to find Number 3 and Number 4 so they could work together to save her. However, the electromagnetic waves radiating from Number 7 were too powerful, making it impossible for anyone to approach her. In the end, only the spirit of Number 6 could intervene. Drifting into the consciousness of his out-of-control Number 7, Number 6 found her trapped in her own torment. Number 7, now fully aware that she had lost control again, sobbed in despair. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should never have existed." Number 6 tried to comfort her. "It's not too late," but she shook her head, still consumed by guilt. "I don't deserve to live. I killed Butler Tinting. I destroyed the world. I'm a monster." Seeing his sister so broken, Number 6 felt an unbearable sadness. Though he had died years his spirit had remained, silently watching over them as they grew. Number 6 gently took Number 7's hand hand and spoke softly. "You are not a monster. You are my little sister. And right now, all of our siblings are doing everything they can to save you." Under his reassurance, number 7 finally began to calm down. Just as she held onto her brother's hand, ready to leave with him, number 6's spirit started to fade. To save number 7, he had expended the last of his energy. Now, he had no choice but to disappear forever. Number 7's relief turned into fresh sorrow. "It's because of me," she said, blaming herself. "You're disappearing because of me." But number 6 only smiled. "I died 17 years ago. It's time for me to go. At least this time, I got to say goodbye." With those final words, his spirit dissolved into countless shimmering lights, fading into number 7's heart. As number 7 awakened, she had finally gained control over her emotions, preventing the massive explosion from happening. At that same moment, elsewhere, number 5's plan had fallen apart. The briefcase had lost its power. There was no way back. However, number 5 quickly remembered something. Back when he worked for Tempscom mission, he had once been assigned to assassinate the president in this very timeline. At that time, he also had a briefcase in his possession. An idea formed in his mind, and he decided to take number 1 with him to track down his older self. It didn't take long before they found old number 5 sitting inside a restaurant. The young number 5 then began to deceive him, using his own life experience to manipulate the older version. He claimed that if the older number 5 traveled to the exact point in time he specified, he could return to the past and free himself from working for Tempscom mission. The older number 5 hesitated but was tempted. Over the years, he had killed far too many people under Handler's orders, and he had long wanted to walk away. However, there was still one final mission he had to complete. According to the plan, when the president's motorcade reached the main road, the older number 5 was supposed to hide in a blind spot and take the shot. The younger number 5 calculated the exact timing, coinciding with the first time he had ever time traveled back home. Using all his strength, he opened a time vortex for the older number 5 to step through. In the same timeline, only one number 5 could exist. Seeing the older number 5 hesitate, number 1 immediately kicked him straight into the vortex. However, in doing so, he also accidentally damaged the briefcase in the older number 5's hands. Before number 1 and number 5 could even process what had just happened, the president's motorcade slowly approached. Everyone believed the danger had been eliminated and that the president would be safe. But then, number 2 spotted a familiar figure on the grassy field. The 7 siblings had thought they had neutralized all threats and secured the president's safety. Yet, in that moment, number 2 caught sight of Resinol's silhouette. Number 2 rushed forward and tackled Resinol to the ground, only to realize it was just a robot. At that very moment, a gunshot rang out from behind. The president had been shot. Despite all their efforts, history had remained unchanged. It was a devastating moment for the nation, but in truth, every part of this event had been orchestrated by someone pulling the strings from behind. Meanwhile, Resinol sought out the Council of 12, the shadowy group that had long influenced global events from the shadows. Confronting them, he accused them of acting on their own, defying agreements, and disrupting the balance of power. But the council was unfazed. They held leverage over Resinol, threatening to expose his deepest secrets to the world if he refused to comply. This time, Resinol was truly enraged. Without hesitation, he eliminated every single one of them. On the day of the assassination, all 7 siblings had been present at the scene, their movements suspicious, their presence undeniable. Now they weren't just fugitives, they had become the most wanted criminals in the country. At the same time, number 7 received a call from the farm owner. She sounded panicked. Her son, Texas, had lost control. It turned out that, some time ago, Texas had accidentally fallen into a lake. By the time number 7 pulled him out, he had already stopped breathing. Desperate, number 7 used her powers to bring him back to life. But in doing so, she unknowingly left behind a fragment of her special energy inside Texas. When number 7 lost control earlier, that energy reacted. It separated from her and awakened inside Texas, driving him into a frenzy. Number 7 wanted to ask her siblings to come with her to investigate, but they were already overwhelmed dealing with the nationwide manhunt against them. One by one, they refused. Disappointed, number 7 was about to drive off alone when number 4 opened the car door and got in. One by one, the others followed. No matter how much they argued, in times of crisis, the 7 of them always had each other's backs. Bracing themselves, they headed to the farm. As expected, Texas was inside the barn, completely engulfed by an enormous, uncontrollable energy. Number 7 slowly approached Texas, using her own energy to stabilize his uncontrollable power. But just as she inched closer, another problem arose. Handler and Lila had tracked them down. Number 5 and number 2 immediately stepped forward to intercept them. Confident in their abilities, they thought a 5 against 2 fight would be easy. But then, with a simple snap of Handler's fingers, an entire squad of soldiers materialized behind her. Before they could be riddled with bullets, number 5 grabbed number 2 and sprinted for cover. But no matter how fast they moved, they couldn't outrun bullets. Ducking behind a tractor, they barely managed to avoid the first round of gunfire. Number 2 turned to number 5, urging him to run inside the house while he stayed behind to hold them off. Steeling himself, number 2 activated his power, redirecting the hail of bullets midair. With a flick of his hand, he sent them flying in another direction, causing explosions across the field. But his power had limits. He could only block one wave of bullets. Just as another wave of bullets was about to rain down on him, Number 7 appeared. Number 7 soared out of the barn, a powerful sonic wave bursting from her chest. The sheer force sent all the assassins crashing to the ground, but Handler and Lila remained completely unscathed. Without hesitation, Lila struck back. A wave of energy erupted from her chest, identical to the one Number 7 had just unleashed. Instantly, all 7 siblings were knocked off their feet. Number 5 was even buried beneath a pile of rubble. Lila stepped into the house, her target clear. At first, Number 1 assumed she was after Number 2, but the moment she walked past him, he realized that her true target was Number 5. He lunged forward to block her path, but before he could react, Lila effortlessly hurled him straight outside. Number 3 rushed in to help. She tried to use her power to control Lila, but in a terrifying counterattack, Lila turned the very same ability against her, nearly suffocating Number 3. It turned out that Lila was born on the same day as the 7 siblings. She also possessed a superpower, the ability to mimic the abilities of others. Lila hadn't come here just to fight. She had come to take revenge on Number 5. Years ago, when Number 5 was still working for Handler, he had been ordered to eliminate Lila's parents. That was how Handler had taken Lila in, raising her under her control. But in reality, Lila had been brainwashed into seeking revenge against Number 5. However, Number 5 remained sharp. He calmly revealed the truth to Lila. The high-ranking leaders of Temscom mission never carried out assassinations themselves. Yet on the day Lila's parents were killed, Handler had been there. This meant Handler's true intention was to take Lila in and use her. At that moment, Lila realized that Handler had only valued her for her ability. Handler had wanted to train Lila into becoming her pawn. As the realization sank in, Lila let go of her hatred. But before she could act, a gunshot rang out from behind. Handler had fired without hesitation. All of them were hit. Even Lila. Her usefulness had come to an end, and Handler had just erased her. Just as Handler was basking in her victory, preparing to finish off Number 5, a gunshot echoed from behind. The white-haired assassin, one of Handler's own subordinates, had arrived. Earlier, he had discovered that he had lost his 2 younger brothers due to a false order from Handler, leading to their unjust deaths. However, he still had no intention of sparing Number 5. Staring down the barrel of the assassin's gun, Number 5 suddenly recalled Resinal's words. Try jumping back a few seconds. Summoning all his strength, Number 5 forced himself to time travel back just 1 second before Handler fired. In that instant, he grabbed the gun from her hands and successfully saved his siblings. Moments later, the white-haired assassin arrived and riddled the Handler with bullets. Amidst the chaos, Lila seized the opportunity to snatch the briefcase and vanished. With the danger finally eliminated, Number 7 absorbed all the excess energy from Texas. Texas became an ordinary boy again. The 6 siblings took the briefcase and returned to their original timeline. The academy was still there. Everything remained intact. As they rejoiced over having prevented the apocalypse, Resinal suddenly appeared. The 6 siblings, stunned, asked in disbelief, "Father, you're still alive?" But Resinal simply responded, "Why would I be dead?" Overjoyed, the siblings thought they were finally back together under the same roof. However, Resinal's next words shattered their excitement. "This is not your home," he said. The siblings, confused, asked, "Isn't this the Umbrella Academy?" But Resinal shook his head and replied, "This place is called the Spello Academy." At that moment, Resinal's other children appeared, and just like that, the first part of the story comes to an end. Did the 6 siblings travel back to the wrong point in time? What challenges await them next? And most importantly, can they still prevent the apocalypse? Make sure to follow the channel to catch the next part of the story. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.